Today I'm going to be making pasta e fagioli, an Italian bean and pasta soup. Now the recipe calls for 5 slices of bacon. I'm going to be using some homemade buckboard bacon that I cure in smoke. These are the ends that are left on from slicing it, but this will add a nice smoky flavor. Now if I was using regular bacon, I would, stack up like 5 slices of thick bacon and then cut across, make nice little 1/4 inch slices. But this I'm just basically dicing. So for this recipe, we just need your basic soup pot here. This is 5 or 6 quart. It would work. And since I'm not using a regular bacon, I'm going to use some bacon grease here for the fat. And the buckboard bacon's a little leaner, so you need a little fat so it won't stick. That's about a tablespoon. Just get it melted up here. Okay, so we'll add in our bacon. And we just want to cook that down a bit, render out any fat. And of course, if you got regular bacon, you'll have a lot more fat to render out. That'll add a lot of flavor to the soup. Next up, the recipe calls for 1/2 of an onion diced. I got a nice big one. And again, I always like to slice off the stem end and keep the root end. The root end holds it together, and also it doesn't let out so much of the vapor to get your eyes. Check on the bacon. We do want to make sure it's just not sticking down. And it's starting to look pretty good there. So we're going to go in with the onion. Now I do want to note right here that I should have added the hamburger here before the onions. Just got the hamburger browned and then put the onions in, but we'll see later what I do. So I like to stir that around good and get it coated with oil, and also break up the pieces of onion because they kind of stick together. Alright, now I'm going to prep the carrots and celery. Calls for 1 whole carrot, but I'm using baby carrots. I think that's usually about 12 baby carrots, but that depends on the size. But now, of course, you can just add as many carrots as you want. More carrots, the better. And I just have some celery that's already been made into sticks, but I'm just going to use it up. Just nice bite-sized pieces. Okay, so the onion is softened a little bit here, so we'll go ahead and add in our carrots and celery. And actually in Italian cooking, they have what they call a sofrito, which is a base, like a vegetable base. And that's what the carrots and celery and onion are. It's also the French mirepoix, I think it's a combination. Now the recipe wants 15-ounce can of crushed tomatoes, but I don't see that. I only see bigger cans. So I'm just going to take a can of diced tomatoes, and I'm going to use my immersion blender and blend that up. Pretty good substitute, I think. So here's where I remember I forgot the hamburger. So I'm going to get that in there. It's just 1 pound of, I think it's 90-10. hamburger, but whatever you want to use. So it'd be better if I had it in earlier. I could brown it better, but it'll work well here. No one will ever know, except for everyone watching this, of course. You see, that's cooking pretty good, and the water's coming out of the vegetables and steaming nicely there. I'm going to go ahead and add in the garlic. It calls for a couple cloves, so I'm going to do a tablespoon, which is about 3 cloves actually, about a teaspoon per clove. So my Italian seasoning, some thyme, red pepper flakes, stir that around. We have the seasonings here while it's still pretty dry, so we can kind of toast the seasonings to warm them up before we add in all the liquid. Alright, crushed tomato, and 4 cups of broth, and that's my homemade broth. And it's still a little frozen. You can see there's a chunk of ice, but it'll melt pretty quick. Next I'm going in with cans of beans. I got 1 can of red kidney beans and 1 can of white beans, navy beans I think. You could also use white kidney beans. One little thing you could do here is pour out about half a cup of those into a bowl or cup and use the immersion blender again and blend that up, and that would make you a little bit of creamy beans to go in there to thicken up the soup. But I didn't do that this time. The last thing I'm going to add is a giant bay leaf here. And I just like to push it under the water a little bit. I like to leave it floating on top so I can find it and take it out later. And while that pot of water is coming up to boil, or pot of soup, I'm going to chop up some parsley that I'm going to use for the garnish at the end. One thing I want to add here while I'm chopping this up is that when I added the broth earlier, I only added 4 cups. The recipe calls for 6 cups. I did add 2 cups of water as well. Okay, it's boiling good. I had it on the super high fast boil setting there. Luckily it's not too easy to burn soup, so it's still good. There, that's a little better now. I think I turn it down a little more. Looking good. Now I'm just going to leave the lid off a little bit so that it can maybe thicken up a little more. I'm going to measure out the pasta here. The recipe calls for 6 ounces, but I'm going to go ahead and use 8. And of course, you could double that and go with like 16 ounces or pound if you wanted to stretch this recipe a ways and just add a little more water. To go along with our soup, I'm just going to slice up some cheeses here, some pepper jack and some sharp cheddar. And we're not looking to make a huge cheese board, just a few slices of cheese to go with the soup. We're also going to be making toast here, so that'll make a nice complete meal with soup, toast, and the cheese. There we are, ready to serve. Okay, the soup's pretty much done here. As you can see, it's about 5 to 6, so it's almost dinner time. So I'm going to fish out the bay leaf, and then I'm going to add the pasta. We only want to cook the pasta about 10 minutes, so about 10 minutes before you're ready to serve, you want to get the pasta in and get it hydrating. Okay, so with about 10 or so minutes left, I'm going to make the garlic cheese toast, and I'm cheating tonight and using this frozen Texas toast. Normally I would make it, slice up some Italian bread, some garlic butter on it, and top it with a little cheese. But I'm cheating. I am going to add some Mexican blend cheese on top of here. That Texas toast is okay, but it can use a little help with a little extra cheese. Okay, so I'm just going to pop this into the toaster oven. I'm going to put it in on the air fryer setting. According to the box directions, and it's once 425 for like 5 or 6 minutes. Try that, see how it goes. Alright, so that's looking pretty good. Ready. So let's check on our soup here. I want to check and make sure the pasta's done. So I'm going to scoop out a couple of noodles there and test them. Alright, good to go. Now I'm going to do the final seasoning here, and I haven't added salt at any point up to this. So just a little salt and pepper here, and I like to use the table salt again for this final seasoning because it dissolves faster than the kosher salt does. Get a more immediate taste test. Taste it again. A little more salt. Alright, it's ready. Let's get it over onto our little mini buffet line. And I'll just finish garnishing here. I'm going to put on a little shredded Parmesan cheese. Of course, fresh would always be better. I got some of this. And the chopped parsley. All nice and pretty now. Okay, so we got our little buffet line, our garlic cheese toast, our Italian pasta e fagioli soup. And there we are. Cheese and extra garnishes. And there's my bowl, ready to go, and my plate with my toast and cheese. Thanks for watching. And please don't forget to like and subscribe. It sure helps out the channel.